beneath the icy depths of the Atlantic, where sunlight never reaches. A colossal figure lies asleep in silence. It is the Bismarck. Once the pride of Germany during the Second World War, a symbol of strength, power, and unyielding ambition. But now, in the suffocating darkness of the ocean, only stillness remains. With rusted steel and memories turned to dust, every crack in its hull and every corroded plate whispers tales of a glorious past and a tragic end. As the camera descends through the dense black water, the first beams of light reveal the form of a dead legend, each rivet and steel plate seeming to breathe in silence, as if the ship still possesses a soul that refuses to depart. They say the ocean has a memory, and the Bismarck is its proof. Where once echoed orders, gunfire, and hurried footsteps, now the only sound left is the distant heartbeat of the sea. Every chamber, every corridor, every sealed door holds stories that were never told. When the lens reaches the command bridge, the light reflects through shattered glass, glimmering across thick moss and revealing the place that once controlled a giant war machine. It feels as if everything is still waiting, as though a single signal could awaken the ship to surge once more across the ocean amid roaring winds and white spray. But instead, there is only silence. A silence so heavy you can hear your own heartbeat. And in that moment, you realize you are not just looking at the remains of a ship, but standing before a memory, a colossal soul buried in darkness. Today, we will descend into that place together to uncover the secrets of the Bismarck, the steel monster that once defied the world. As the light from the ROV sweeps across the hull, the colossal shape of the Bismarck slowly emerges like a spirit folded within the deep darkness. The mottled, rusted plates and cracks that resemble unhealed wounds tell the story of a battle that has slept for more than 80 years. The frigid water flows through every opening, carrying the breath of time, while small bubbles rise and vanish like fragile fragments of human memory. The command bridge appears, once the heart of power and command, now filled only with empty chairs, control panels coated in green moss, and clock hands forever frozen. In the misty haze of seawater, everything seems suspended in its final moment. The sounds of gunfire, engines, and shouting long gone, leaving only distant echoes within the imagination. The camera drifts through the officers' quarters, where once formal dinners took place with wine glasses and laughter. Now, only broken porcelain, cracked crystal, and utensils blanketed by a red film of rust remain. Everything stands still as if time itself has been erased from this place. In that cold darkness, the viewer feels as though witnessing a vast underwater graveyard where war, humanity, and glory have dissolved into dust. The ocean does not judge. It simply keeps what it is given. And the Bismarck lies there still, silent and immense. A solemn reminder that all power eventually fades into the quiet of the deep. The deeper we move into the heart of the ship, the thicker the darkness becomes, with only the faint glow of the diving lights reflecting off the rusted walls. Twisted pipes, worn gears, and scorched marks still stain the steel surfaces. The engine room, once the beating heart of the Bismarck, is now a hollow void of silence, with motionless shafts and bolts and cables coated in the red dust of time. One can almost imagine the roar of engines, the clash of metal, the echo of shouted orders, yet all that remains are imagined sounds drifting within the dense black water. In the ammunition chamber, corroded shells lie scattered like the bones of a dead steel beast. Some still keep their shape, reflecting an eerie green glow amid the soft silt, as if the war itself is still breathing somewhere in the depths of the ocean. In a hidden corner, a door stands jammed halfway open, revealing behind it the sleeping quarters of the crew. The bunk beds lean at strange angles. Blankets decayed into black fragments. A single shoe lies buried in sand beside a faded photograph of a young man whose smile remains intact despite the passing of time. There is no sound except the faint whisper of waves and the slow hum of the equipment. Yet in that silence, one can feel something deeply human, profoundly real, as if the souls of those who once lived here are still watching. Quietly, from within the endless dark, the camera continues to drift slowly through the narrow corridors, its dim light gliding across green moss clinging to iron walls. The remaining flakes of paint standing like traces of a once vivid memory, the space gradually opens into a large chamber that was once the crew's dining hall. Long tables are split in half. Chairs lie overturned, and plates and bowls are scattered across a thin layer of fine sand. A small fish swims through a crack in the wood, leaving behind a soft cloud of suspended dust like drifting smoke. On the wall, a faded emblem is barely visible, its outline the last remnant of a symbol that once stood for pride and power. The light sweeps across the corner of the room where a knife is buried deep in the tabletop, its blade trembling slightly with the movement of the current, as if retelling the final moments of fear and chaos. On the other side, a broken clock hangs with shattered glass, its hands forever stopped at a certain hour. Perhaps the very moment the ship sank. Every object holds the breath of stillness, a fragment of time frozen in the storm of history. As the lens moves away from the room, it feels as though one has just stepped off a stage where humanity's play has ended. Yet the props remain, silent and heavy. The ocean continues to guard its secret, like a loyal keeper watching over the souls that once lived here, ensuring that no one may touch the past. Only listen to it with the heart. The deeper the camera moves, the faint beam of light begins to reflect off patches of brass and rusted steel, creating a strangely warm glow amid the cold darkness. Ahead lies the infirmary, once considered the final refuge for the wounded. Now, only tilted iron beds remain, their white sheets turn to a reddish brown of rust and sand. A small glass bottle rolls slowly across the table, the faded word morphine still visible on its label. The medicine of pain and the symbol of fragile hope. The lens glides gently over a broken syringe, fragments of glass shimmering in the dim light like shattered memories of a time filled with chaos. On the wall, a piece of paper nearly eaten away still clings stubbornly, perhaps a record of the injured. Now nothing more than faint, illegible lines. In this space, everything seems to wait for someone to return, for human hands to restore what once was. Yet everything has long since sunk into oblivion. No breath remains, no footsteps, only the gentle motion of the water and the distant hum of the sea. Within this scene, the viewer feels an uncanny peace, a mixture of sorrow and reverence, as if standing on the fragile border between life and death, between humanity and memory. At the end of the corridor, the camera slowly enters the command center, once the heart of every order and every life or death decision. The beam of light glides over rusted control panels, moss-covered buttons, and shattered screens that now stare blankly like the blind eyes of the past. In the middle of the room, the ship's wheel still stands, motionless in the thick water, a final symbol of power long since drowned. The heavy plates of steel and the twisted metal frames evoke the memory of a machine that once challenged the ocean itself, now reduced to a relic resting in silence. The light catches a silver insignia etched with an eagle and an anchor, now coated in a shimmering layer of green corrosion. No voices remain, no radio signals echo, only the deep resonant hum of the water, like the slow breathing of the sea. Every frame, every movement of the camera seems to touch the very soul of the ship, awakening memories long asleep. In that moment, it feels as though time itself begins to rewind, as if the Bismarck is about to rise again, with engines trembling and columns of water bursting skyward. But then silence returns, vast and absolute. A reminder that all glory eventually turns to dust. Beneath the cold water, the ship is no longer a battleship, but a monument to the past. A lesson the ocean still guards within its eternal quiet. Leaving the command center, the ROV drifts gently down a set of broken stairs, leading into the deeper levels of the ship. Below, a wide chamber emerges through the murky haze. The archive room, once home to documents, maps, and top-secret orders. Now, only tilted filing cabinets remain, their papers dissolved into pulp, and fragments of cardboard float like ghosts of memory. A yellow envelope still sealed lies nearby, its red wax cracked, the imprint slowly fading into the salt water, as if time itself has finally unlocked the ocean's secret. Tiny fish glide between the shelves, brushing against the rust and releasing thousands of glittering particles that swirl in the beam of light. In the corner, a thick logbook rests on a table covered in sand, its pages fused together, impossible to open. The faint outline of 2 handwritten words barely visible across the cover, like a final farewell. The air within this room feels heavy, carrying the weight of countless stories never told. The ocean remains silent, yet it seems to listen, reading each line, each forgotten word left behind by human hands. In this moment, one realizes that war does not leave its scars only upon the land, but also deep beneath the sea, where memories sleep within the shadows of the abyss, where time no longer matters and truth is guarded by silence. The camera slowly moves toward the aft deck, the place where the flagpole and Bismarck's main guns once stood. Now, the massive barrels have become corroded shapes of mottled steel, their muzzles lowered toward the seabed as if bowing in silent surrender. Around them lies a thick layer of fine sand mixed with fragments of metal, splinters of wood, and traces of what once belonged to a war-born giant. The light moves slowly, sweeping across a flag that has faded into a pale red strip of fabric still caught on a broken pole. The cloth swaying gently in the current, like the fragile breath of memory. Nearby, severed cables drift freely, twisting like arms reaching out to grasp what has already been lost. Everything seems to possess a soul, each object telling its own story in silence. Beneath the thick marine dust, faint carvings can be seen. The names of sailors who once served aboard the ship, now reduced to indistinct marks hidden in the dark. As the camera pulls back, the entire hull emerges, massive and leaning within the blue-black water, like a monument carved by time and loss. The sea speaks no words, yet every current and every movement seems to whisper, to sing the requiem of history. And in that deepest place, the Bismarck remains, no longer a battleship, no longer a symbol of power, but a witness to destruction, to glory turned to ash, and to the memory of humankind buried forever in the heart of the ocean. In the deepest level of the ship, where light can barely reach, the lens halts before a grand staircase connecting the main compartments. The iron steps are warped and covered in moss and sea dust, descending into an endless darkness. As the beam of light sweeps across, tiny bubbles rise, like wandering souls drifting through the deep. A faded officer's cap floats gently with the current. Its fabric decayed, yet the silver insignia on the brim still catches the faint light like a lonely star in an eternal night. This staircase was once filled with hurried footsteps as the ship was sinking. Once the border between life and death, between hope and despair. Now it is merely a passage leading downward into silence, where time itself has stopped. From below, a thin mist rises and the light cuts through it, creating a scene that feels both real and dreamlike. As if the ocean is replaying the final moments of the Bismarck, broken railings and drifting fragments of wood move slowly in the heavy water of memory. As the camera glides through this space, the viewer feels as though drifting backward through time, returning to the moment the ship was swallowed by fire and cannon thunder. But now, all that remains is stillness. The slow breathing of the sea, embracing everything. The staircase no longer leads anywhere. It leads only to memory, to eternity, where every story ends in silence. As the camera pulls away from the hull, the colossal form of the Bismarck slowly emerges within the deep blue water. The ship lies on its side, its iron skin covered in moss and coral, resembling an ancient creature turned to stone through the passing decades. Light from above filters weakly through the depths, illuminating only fragments, while the rest remains swallowed by eternal darkness. Curved lines of the hull, broken cannons, and lonely antenna masts stand like the final strokes of a melancholy painting for which the ocean is the silent artist. At the stern, a small fragment of the once proud flag still clings to a broken pole, its faded red fabric swaying gently in the current. It is no longer a symbol of war, but of memory, of the people who lived, fought, and vanished with the ship. The water surrounding the Bismarck moves like the embrace of time itself, cold yet tender, holding everything the world above has forgotten. No more echoes of battle, no engines, no crees, only the distant hum of the deep, like a requiem for the souls long asleep. As the light fades, the Bismarck returns once more to darkness, to its watery grave. Yet within that silence, the ship continues to speak, not with words, but with the breath of the sea, reminding us that some things, even when they sink, never truly disappear. The ocean keeps them forever.